So this is my guy. Sorry. Yeah, I already explained for the agenda for today. Here's my guy, my idol, because of his work ethics, his humbleness, and so many other stuff. And this is him in his national team, Germany. And this is pretty embarrassing moment for me. But in case you can say, this is me in high school, wearing the same number, 14. So I said, okay, this is my lucky number, and I should go with it. And it worked for so many years, and I was very happy with that. And then iOS 14 happened last year. And the meaning of the number 14 for me has changed forever. I have Apple to thanks for that. So whenever I see the number 14, I don't think about my jersey number or basketball or Dirk Nowitzki, but rather iOS 14 challenges and iOS 14 updates and so on. So talking about iOS 14 changes, so what really happened? I'm sure you guys all know. I'm not going to go in too much in detail, but so what happened is that first big major change, if you'd like to gather the IDFA of the user, then you have to show the ATT prompt. And it's not mandatory, but moving forward, you have to do that and show this ATT prompt that you see in the middle. And obviously, it had really big impact on the attribution side of things, especially deterministic attribution. And then the second thing was this SCAD network, scan, right? So it's what is scan? So it's another framework, attribution framework that Apple created and started using really from the beginning of last year or something. So it sounds great, but what is the problem? So if we have another additional attribution measurement. So problems were here, actually. So with the SCAD network, LTV is kind of that lifetime value. We can't really speak of LTV anymore because you only have one timer and you get one post back and it's done. That's one of the biggest problems. And then you have only 6 bits to measure. What does that mean? You have only 64 possibilities, which is quite less than what we used to have. And that's another problem that we have. And conversion value threshold, there were so many speculations about what's the threshold, but what Apple wanted to do was not giving a chance for advertisers to do reverse engineering, so you wouldn't know who the user is actually based on those conversion values. And maybe the biggest one, duplicated attribution. What does that mean? You have your MMP's attribution on one hand, and then SCAD network attribution on the other hand. And then it is creating mess. I will talk more about this problem in upcoming slides. But if you can recall, I don't know if you can relate to this guy, but I can. So every call I had or every news that I got from the meetings or from news, I don't know, that was me and also ecosystem's reaction. However, there's a maybe little silver lining to this story. It's not fixing, but I think this slide shows the importance of giving external feedback. So what I believe is that Apple have listened and slightly improved the SCAD network right now with Scan 4.0 updates coming late this year, maybe a little, early next year. So what happened is that now on LTV measurement, we'll have 3 postbacks instead of 1. After 2 days, after 7 days, and then after 35 days, which is, better than nothing, good. And then you have campaign breakdown variety. So we'll have 4 digits instead of 2, so you'll be able to have more variety on campaign. And maybe more importantly, third one, web to app attribution. We didn't have that. We don't have it so far, so it will be provided as well. So again, these are not going to fix our problems, but still there is a improvements, and this is recently, and I wanted to share this with you. So more fun stuff. In this section, I'm going to talk about especially post-ATT era insights and findings that we have in global and EMEA and also in our region, Turkey. Be my guest. You can take pictures, but at the end, I'll give you a chance to scan our QR code to read the full thing. So just bear in mind. So in this section, I'm comparing 2021 versus 2020. So on only gaming, I'm talking about gaming installs, we've seen 22 increase in gaming installs, 2021 versus 2020. That on Android. That's cool, one might say. Yeah, cool. How about the iOS? We have a different story here, and it dropped. We have 6% drop on iOS side. So let's take a look at maybe more deeper. So on the left-hand side, you see the gaming, and then right-hand side, you see the non-gaming. So when you do zoom out, actually, you don't have the same story here. You see in non-gaming side, iOS, the blue one, is even higher than Android. So why do you think that happened, especially in gaming area? It's because that was something I witnessed a lot, talking to many gaming app teams and, had so many discussions around that. So in gaming specifically, we've seen big chunk of budget shifting from iOS to Android. And this is the total ad spend last year, 14.5 billions, quite ironic. And then this is excluding China, by the way, but you can see the geos as well. So half is coming from the United States. Next, so if you have, and this is the kind of the impact that ATT and iOS 14 had. So if you haven't convinced so far, let's take a deep breath now and take a look at this slide. We've seen on in-app purchase revenue on iOS, 35% drop since from June to end of year, last year. And when you think about it, it's quite a lot. And when you look at the same on Android side, that's not the case. We've seen 10% increase. And then when you look at the in-app advertising revenue, on Android side, we've seen 55 increase, which is quite impressive. And on iOS side, you can see, there's only 2% drop. But compared to Android, this is actually quite bad when you think about it. More key findings on EMEA region. So on, including our region, Turkey, we saw on hyper-casual gaming, we've seen 90% plus increase in terms of overall installs, which is quite impressive number. And then on casual games, right-hand side, we've seen the day one retention date being 40%, again, quite strong. And then maybe this is expected. Hyper-casual games have the lowest CPI among all the other gaming genres. But again, yeah, that was another important finding. Let's talk about ATT adoption and implementation rate. Okay, impressive number. This is 91%. This is for gaming vertical specifically, meaning 91% of the total gaming apps have implemented the ATT prompt, quite high. And when you look at the other verticals, gaming is leading this area. So we have spectrum from around 55%. Health and fitness being the less one. And then, gaming is leading the category here. And then ATT concentrate. So we have, again, spectrum from, meaning, so what does that mean? ATT concentrate meaning saying allow to ATT prompt. So gaming, we have around 45%, sits in the middle when you look at the all verticals. So we have utilities, finance, photography in the top, and then gaming sits in the middle. So what about the geo? When we look at the geo, So we have, again, spectrum from 37% with Spain over here, and then 58% for Saudi Arabia. So trend we see here in developed countries, markets, we've seen less ATT consent rate. So how about Turkey? Does anyone want to guess? What is the gaming overall consent rate? Any numbers you want to? Any? Very close. This guy again, 41%. So this is quite coincidence. But gaming industry had the 41% ATT consent rate in Turkey, and yeah. So I got this from the our ATT benchmark dashboard report. So we have like lots of information. I'll share at the end. We seen the 41% ATT user opt-in rate, and adoption rate is quite high as well, almost 80%. And then we can see the SCAD network conversion value distribution, mainly used revenue and events plus revenue combined, and ad spend, and the app revenue trend by week. Just a special shout out to hypercasual. We've seen 60% opt-in rate for gaming hyper-casual genre. Okay, so we talked a lot about ATT, but how do we get better consent rates? Are there any case studies or things to do? So again, it's not mandatory, right? You don't have to show the ATT prompt. But if you like to get the IDFA of the user, then you have to show it. And if you have to show it, then the timing is quite important. You have to show on the very beginning. So this is a very clear case study that we had. So here we see the share of ATT consent users since install in minutes on left-hand side, in hours in the middle, and then in days on the right-hand side. So what we've seen is that it starts around 50% in minutes, and then it goes down and down, and for hours it goes down to 40–45%, and then 30% for days. So again, this is a very clear and crucial finding that we have. This is especially for gaming overall. Next slide. So let's say you couldn't get the IDFA of the user. It's not the end of this story. I mean, you cannot, again, show the ATT, of course. You cannot show it on the second time. But what you can do, if that's a highly engaged user for you, after a week maybe, send the in-app notification to this user, and then redirect this user to their app settings where they can give the consent. So when we did that, this is like day 0 versus day 7. In overall, we've seen 24 uplift on the consent rate. And when you look at the gaming, maybe it's a bit less, but again, 17%. We've seen higher rates when doing this strategy. That's all great about ATT. Again, I'm going back to the other big problem that we have, duplicated attribution. What do we do about it? So let's address the problem. Again, you have your MMP's attribution, one hand, and then you have SCAD network attribution on the other hand. And then what happens, there are actually two different logic that is working for you. And then we've seen up to 35 installs are attributing twice, mudding the results that you have. And what happened is that you have one data source saying this, let's say 1,000 non-organic, and then you have other source that's saying more non-organic and less organic. So which one am I going to trust? So that's the biggest problem, right? So what we did, we came up with the idea of single source of truth, and our aim was to attribute user only once. And how do we do that? So we we got the 1 bit out of 6 bits that you have, and put a flag on it to understand if it's coming also from AppsFlyer attribution or MMP attribution, or only from SCAD network. So when we did that, we've seen quite impact. So especially, I want you to focus on the eCPI that we have here. So eCPI, E cost per install, as you might know, it was the biggest problem after iOS 14.5, right? Our eCPIs have gone crazy. And when we did this, and lots of gaming apps and other vertical apps have implemented this, they've seen around 20% decrease on eCPI, which is quite impressive. And then attributed installs are gone up 40% instead of organic. So an organic goes down in this scenario, but that was the impact that we had. So now let's talk about iOS 14 problems and maybe how you can tackle them with cross-media strategy. I like this one. So if you haven't launched any web campaigns yet, I suggest trying out maybe. The reason, okay, so user journey is slightly longer than app install campaigns, but through this flow, what you can do is to send users to web, and then if they would install your app, so you can definitely encourage them to install your app, and when they do that, through web UTM values, we will be able to understand where the user is coming from through those UTM values. And we will be able to attribute the user correctly and then keep the LTV of the user, so which is quite good. Another, I think this is clever one, I think, especially on hyper-casual, this is almost like a must, which is, what you can do with cross-promotion is that if you know, if your user is going to churn at some point, then you could advertise your second app in the first app that you have. And then when they install the second app through here, then you would either, in that case, you would be able to keep the LTV data of the user, even though if they would be churned for the first game. So I think that's very clever. User invites, very popular, very strong way to do cross-promotion, incentivizing the users and rewarding them to share the app with their friends, so you would be able to keep the LTV lifetime value data for both users, quite strong one. And then social to app, I'm not giving any names here, like in terms of platforms, Twitch, YouTube, social apps, Instagram, TikTok, so you can use them all and then use the attribution links, and you would be able to keep the LTV data, which is quite basic and something you can do very easily. So recap of learnings from today's session. First, I have to check the presentation before the session starts. That's for me. And then show ATT prompt. If you decide on showing the ATT prompt, then you better show it on the first launch. Combine the attribution data sources to reduce eCPI through single source of truth. Message non-consented users in order to get higher IDFA rates, and also do cross-promote and user invite. So these are the reports that I gather my information from today, my findings. So we have the ATT benchmark report. We have been updating this one. You can go there and look at the vertical and geo-based results, ATT consent rate, implementation rate, and scan configuration distributions, and so on. And the second one is giving you more high-level post-ATT era results. And yeah, I think that's more to say, more insights in that report as well. And thank you. That's from me. If you have questions, I don't think we have time, but I will be outside around our booth. We have some retro gaming meshes, and you can come and play with us. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.